Let's make the Doom style health display in Unity. Welcome everyone to our first Halloween special where throughout the month we're going to look at how to create mechanics inspired by horror games starting with the classic Doom. So grab your chainsaws, let's rip and tear. Right, let's get set up as follows. First, we're going to need a player object to heal and deal damage to. Then, everything else will all be performed as UI. So, right click, create empty, and call it UI Manager. Inside the UI Manager, right click again, and create UI and Canvas. Inside that canvas, you'll want to add the design for your head-up display. Then, right click, UI, Image, and this image we will call player status. This will display the current health status of the player's face, the mugshot. You can choose whatever sprite as a source image you like. I have my sprites prepared here. If you need sprites of your own, feel free to download these very same sprites for free from the link in the description below, and you can simply drag and drop them in your source image however you like. Then we're going to want to display how much health we have. So you'll want to right click, UI again, and create text, simply called our health text, and position both the text and your player status as desired in your project. Once you're happy with your layout, how this is going to work is simple. When the player heals or is dealt damage, that's going to affect the player's current health. That value is going to be fed to the UI Manager, which will use that current health as a health percentage, which it will then use to determine what sprite to render on our player status to show that we've taken a bit of damage, we look a bit bruised and beaten up. So let's go ahead and create the first of our scripts, and that will be our UI Manager. Drag and attach it to your UI Manager object, and go ahead and open it up. For the variables, let's start with a public image player status for the player face, the mugshot. Then we'll create a public sprite array because we're going to want to choose from a different range of sprites to show different severities of damage, which we will call status condition. Then, lastly, we want our text, our health text, public text, health text. Afterwards, create two new methods. First, a public void update health. This is going to update all the UI elements depending on our integer health value, which will be determined by the player's current health. Then we want to create a public void health status. This will use that health value, and we will then interpret it as an integer health percentage to allow us to determine what sprite to render depending on the health percentage range. For example, between 80 to 100%, we still want to look relatively fresh, whereas between 40 to 60, we want to look a bit bloodied and beaten up. So, in the health update, let's add our health text.text equals health value.toString, then after the brackets plus, in quotations, a percentage. This will then display whatever the value of our text is and add the percentage symbol at the end. Then we also want to use that health value to determine our health percentage in the health status. Therefore, health status in the brackets will equal health value. Now, let's go to the health status and determine what sprite we want to render when we're looking peachy and fresh. For that, we'll use an if statement. We'll say if, in the brackets, the health percentage is greater than or equal to 80, then the player status.sprite will render whatever sprite is listed as status condition 0, the first sprite in the array. Now, I want my sprite to change every 20%. So what I'll do is create else if statements and repeat that for the range desired. So, else if health percentage is less than 80 and health percentage is greater or equal to 60, then rend a new sprite, so on and so forth until each of those 20% increments are whittled down to 0. There I will say else if the health percentage is less than or equal to 0, player status.sprite equals status condition 5, which will be my death sprite. Game over. That's all we need for now in the UI Manager, so hit save, and let's head back into Unity. Now, let's fill out the UI Manager with the necessary components. So for player status, let's drag our image in there like so, and likewise for the health text. Then the status condition array needs a size. I have 6 sprites that I want to choose between, so I'll punch in 6, and I will go ahead and fill out my array as follows, starting with 100 at the top, working down the desired increments until eventually the player is no more. Now, before we can put this into action, let's create a player controller script. Let's add it to the player and open it up. As you can see, my player controller is very simple. I'm only concerned with the health value, so I have an integer default health equals 100, and that all-important public integer of current health that the UI Manager is going to be looking for. So in start, current health will equal default health, and we also want a way to add and subtract from that current health value. So I've created 2 very simple methods just to heal and deal damage to the player as follows. So we want the player controller to communicate with the UI Manager and relay that current health information to it. So let's reference the UI Manager as a variable. In the start method, we can simply call it using find object of type UI Manager. And now we can then feed that current health value to the UI Manager and update accordingly. So UIMan.update health. What value do we want the update to be? Well, the current value of current health. And we'll do the same for the heal and take damage functions as well. Whatever changes apply, we want them to be updated. With that out of the way, hit save. Let's head back into Unity. With all that in place, let's give it a test. Now, to simulate damaging and healing the player, I'm going to be using these buttons I've created, using the simple script on screen now, if you'd like to do the same. So let's go ahead and damage the player. And we should see that once we get below 80, yep, we're looking a bit bloodied there, 60, and continuing until eventually, there we go, looking good. Now, there's extra we can do here. We can also add a sprite change whenever we are hurt, whenever we take damage. He can flinch and wince. So let's have a look at how to do that. Let's start by duplicating our player status image and let's rename it to player hurt. As you can see, I have a different sprite that overlays the player status sprite. Feel free to download these sprites from the link in the description below. What we're then going to do is set the player hurt sprite inactive, and in the UI Manager, we're going to create a script that's going to set this active for a few short moments, then inactive again whenever we take damage. So let's open up the UI Manager script. Just like we did before, for the variables, let's create another public image for the player hurt and a public sprite array, pain sprite, so we have a different pain sprite for each percentage range. Then underneath our health status, let's create 2 more methods. The first, a public void called hurt, and again, just like we did here, we want the sprite to be determined by our integer health percentage and void not hurt. So in void hurt, what do we want to happen? When we're hit and receive damage, we want to flinch in pain. Therefore, we will flash the player hurt.gameObject.setActive as true, then invoke the not hurt method after a quarter of a second to then set it inactive. So you can copy and paste, add that in there. This time we'll set it as false. There we go. Then finally, back in the hurt method, we want to rend a different pain sprite for each respective health percentage range. because we don't want him to look all bloodied and then take damage, be smiling and fresh faced. So we will do the same as we did before, only this time, instead of the player status sprite, we're going to be updating the player hurt.sprite, then your desired pain sprite from that pain sprite array. And there we go. Let's hit save, head back into Unity. Let's put the finishing touches to the UI manager. It's now asking for the player hurt image. Let's drag that in there like so. I've already gone and filled out my pain sprite array. Then finally, let's head back into the player controller script, where in take damage, we're going to inform the UI manager hurt function of the player's current health. Hit save. Let's check it out. And now when we take damage, our guy flinches in pain for each of the damage ranges. And let's heal him as well to see him recover and clean himself up. Excellent. There we go. This is just one simple way to achieve this Doom style health display. I will revisit this in the future, as I'd like to try this with facial animations and expressions and see how we can achieve similar results that way. Until then, thank you all very much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great October, a great Halloween, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. See you soon.